I am so pleased to be working with Austin Pedal Cars on this project. Their help and support along the way is going to be so helpful. If you have got a pedal car or you're restoring one yourself and you need any parts for it at all, click on the link in the description below, visit their website and you'll be amazed. They've put a huge amount of effort into reproducing anything you could ever need for these beautiful little pedal cars. Let's get into the video. Hello everyone, we're back in the workshop, back working on the J40. Thanks for joining us again. And we are going to make some good progress today because I've got pretty much a full day to get some stuff done. Front axle is the first thing that we're going to tackle. We're staying on the mechanical parts because I'm quite enjoying doing it, and it's going to be a big ticked off the list and something that we can work through, so it's quite good. The front axle is probably the worst and most damaged area, so of course we're going to start there. I haven't had time to have anything sandblasted, so everything's still painted. I have been soaking some parts in some acid that I've got here that removes the rust, but they're all going to need a bit of a clean up, so I'm going to get some gloves on, get my goggles on, fire up the blowtorch and try and burn some of this paint off, give it a clean up with a wire wheel, and then we can see what repairs are going to need to be done, because there's a few. Initial problem. So the first thing that I've noticed is this mount and this mount are what bolt to the body. So on the body, it bolts to this inner wing here. They are quite critical locations. This one, you can see that little bit of deformed edge there. It's been spot welded on. It's nice and clean in there. It looks like it's original. This also spot welded on. Nice and clean. It all looks good. This side, it's got a bit of a messy weld there. A horrible mess in there. And then some sort of MIG weld tacks underneath. On both sides. That is not going to work. That tells me that the right hand side has been cut off and replaced, or cut off and re-welded back. Maybe it got broken off during an accident and re-welded back in place, and it's not straight. So I'm going to cut that off completely. I've got the other side as a reference, which is brilliant, and the blue body that has been lent to me from Austin Pedal Cars, which is a really nice, clean, original body. So I can bolt the chassis up to that, use the one side that's got the original mountings, build the axle up, make sure it all fits nicely, and then work out the position for the other side, which I will then weld in place a little bit nicer than the way it's been welded on here. I might put a couple of welds on the other one just to sort of reinforce it, just to make sure, so they can both match. But it's little details. But I just want to, my most important point here is that right hand front axle mount is in the wrong place. It's not straight and it's previously been welded on. So we're going to take that off and put that right. It's one of the first jobs. The second issue is, this is the axle. This is the sort of the hub. This kingpin would run through there. The idea is that this hub rotates and the kingpin is supposed to stay still. That's why it's got flat. That flat section locates on that tab that's in there. But you can see how unround those holes are. It's just from wear and tear. Because the kingpin's been able to move, it's worn the washer away, which has then let the flat come away from where it's located and spin, and that has worn all that away. So I'm going to have to grind these off, remove all of these, make some new washers, put them in the right place so that the flat of the kingpin now locates properly against the inside of the axle and it's all nice and secure. There's also various bent bits. One last problem is this area of corrosion on the bottom on one side. So pretty standardly I'm going to have to cut this whole section out. There's another hole there, so I'll probably have to cut a big old chunk, half of this off, make a new piece, weld it in place, grind it down. Hopefully after all of those repairs we'll have a nice straight axle with all of its stops and ends and spacers all in the right place. It's going to be a lot of work. I'm going to have my work cut out today to get this done, but I'm going to do my best. The end of the axle all cleaned up. My new washer is going to go on there. I'm going to spot weld that in place. I'm going to use the original kingpins as a kind of guide, clamp them in position on their flats against the inside of the chassis, drop the washers top and bottom, hold them in place, and then TIG weld them in place. These were originally spot welded in place. I'm just going to use my TIG because it's just easier and more straightforward to just TIG weld it in place, and it'll be more than strong enough. It will look pretty good. Once it's on, it's going to be fine. But whilst I've got the TIG welder out, I've also noticed 2 more cracks on the inside of this sort of front axle. I'm really glad I found those now. It's a perfect time to just weld those up, super quick to do now, instead of missing it and then that crack getting worse and splitting and causing more damage in the future. So it's always worth cleaning up parts, looking out for stuff like that.
Say I'm weak when I'm being kind. I'm ripping out pages, reading your mind.
Alright, so this is the gist of the steering. Steering column comes off of here, goes up to the steering wheel. It moves the wheels like that. It's pretty simple. It's all looking really nice and free, moving back and forwards. It's a bit of a sort of dry mock-up build, I guess, of just piecing it all together to make sure nothing's bent, nothing's twisted, or that some of the holes were slightly elongated. I've welded them up. Just making sure it's all as it should be. Something else I'm keeping a critical eye on is there's these kingpins. Because the holes were so big, there was a certain amount of movement that way, which would, by the time the wheels are bolted on, would adjust the camber. So the front wheels would be slightly tipped in. And trying to make sure that they are the same on both sides. By bolting these axles on and then just offering up a ruler to the table to make sure the end of the axle that sticks out to the table is the same on both sides. The wheels look like they're going to sort of steer relatively straight, so we're looking good. I mean, we are building a race car after all, so we need this to be as good as it can be. These hub assemblies I'm going to chuck in the acid, which is going to start to remove the rust. I'm too impatient to wait long enough, but it might give me a bit of a start. So I'm going to actually then move on to the rust repair. Let's cut that rot off the bottom and see what we're looking at inside. So I've drilled those 4 little holes. They're going to be plug welds. They're going to sort of hold it onto the seam. The rest of the welds are going to hold it all together, join it back in. So it's going to be a nice flush, seamless joint. The actual axle inside. I've put some rust converter in there. I've got a little hand sort of sandblaster that I've got in there as far as I can to get as much of the rust as I can away, which is, to be fair, it's done a really good job. It wasn't too bad inside there. It was all quite sort of surfacey, which has come off really nicely. And then I've just buried it in this stuff, which if you've been watching the 356 videos, you'll know that I'm covering every inch of it in this stuff, because it's like a galvanizing coating that you spray on. It's got high zinc content, and it sort of etches the panel. You can weld through it. So any panels where there's 2 sandwiched together, spraying that on both surfaces protects them. It's sort of almost like a primer, but you can actually weld through it. So it's going to hopefully seal inside this to prolong the life of it and stop it from going rusty in the future. Honestly, this stuff from Worth is really, really good stuff. It just goes on really nicely, and it's once it's etched on there, it's really stuck. So very good. Top marks to Worth. This stuff is really good. Right, that's all the rot taken care of. Now I'm going to chop off that incorrect body mount, bolt this axle to the blue body and see where it should actually be and get it stuck back in place. Great. Just what I wasn't hoping for. A massive hole. I guess I'm glad I took it off. But another patch to make, weld in place, and that before I can even think about sticking this back on. Oh dear. All right, there's the 2 sort of steering knuckles, hubs. I've given them a quick sandblast just to get the last bits of dirt and rust off. They're looking good. So they've been in the acid that's removed all the rust, and then they had a quick little blast just to get the paint off. They're looking good. I'm going to spray them so they don't go rusty. Oh, well, I cannot believe it's now gone 6 o'clock, which means I've got a good 2 and a bit hour drive down to the barn this evening, and I still need to pack up and tidy up, so I'm not getting there till gone 10 o'clock, am I, realistically? So for the rest of the week, I'm at the repair shop. I'm going to get down to the barn and blast the last few bits, the hubs. So these, I've just burnt the paint to try and get all the paint off. So I've got the hub, all 4, and also the rear sort of brackets that hold the actual rear axle to the body. Pile of bits there I'm going to bring because I've got my blasting cabinet down at the barn. That blue body from Austin Pedal Cars that they've lent me has been so helpful to make sure that the steering rod's all in the right place, you know, everything's looking good. I've just sprayed them quickly with some of my weld through primer, but I'm going to go down to the barn. I've got a nice can of paint down there. It's an interesting brand that I've not heard of before, a German brand. It's an industrial paint. I think they paint oil rigs and like big industrial commercial things with it. I've got some gloss black. It's a lovely, lovely paint, and it's going to be perfect for these components. Now, I know before anybody that is a bit of a J40 nerd, as far as I'm aware, the front axle is supposed to be body color, but I don't want to do that. It makes sense to me having all the running gear. This is what I would do on a car like my 356. All the running gear would be black, and the shell would be the body would be the painted part in the colour. The pedals, the rear axle, the whole front sort of axle subframe bit, all of the suspension components are going to be gloss black, and the body is going to be painted in the colour. Which colour, I don't know yet. As soon as I get this all painted black, that'll be done. I can then start thinking about reassembling it with the bearings. Then tackle probably the pedals next, because they're the next worst bit. There was lots of splits and cracks on the pedals, and work my way back to the rear axle. So stay tuned, stay with me. I'm going to get down to the barn. We might have a little wander around the barn whilst we're there, see how we go during the week. It's going to be a busy week, but next time I see you, I'll be in Chichester at the repair shop down at the barn, and we'll get this front axle painted gloss black. Oh, dearie me. Good and bad news. I had every intention to go down to the barn and get loads of work done in my lunch times and evenings on the pedal car, get the front axle painted, loads of bits sandblasted and get it all ready. None of it happened. What a week I've had. I'm so knackered. We're coming to the end of filming. There's about 3 or 4 weeks left of filming, and it is busy down there. It's just been full on, and I have not had a spare minute. I've been in early, staying late, just doing the work there, just filming. I have made some progress with soaking bits. I've got the wheels and the pedals and a load of other bits soaking in some Evaporust, to the sort of rust removing solution. So some progress is happening, but nowhere near as much progress as I'd like. The good news is, next week I have got 1 free day. Saturday, John is booked. I've got the day off, and we're going to come to the workshop and work on the Porsche. So many of you have been messaging me on YouTube and Instagram saying, when are you going to do the Porsche? What's happening with the Porsche? So I thought, you know what? We've got a spare day. Let's put the pedal car and the Edwardian and everything to one side. Let's just dedicate 1 day to the 356, show you the new panels that I've got from Trevor's Hammerworks, and let's get stuck into the sort of stumbling block that we got stuck with last time. We're now at the point where we've got the parts that we need to progress, so we can. And we've only got 1 day, so we're not going to get tons done, but there will be a Porsche update next week. I promise you, 100%, next week, Sunday 5 PM, will be a 356 update. If you're new to the channel and you haven't seen it, you've got this week to go back through the previous videos where we got the car, stripped it down, started cutting it up, and got to where we are today. If you have been following along, you'll know exactly where we're up to. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Show your support to the channel. That helps us out so much and costs you absolutely nothing. Makes a big difference to us. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy next week's. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I also hope you enjoy next week's. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to get stuck back into the 356. Thanks for watching. See you next time.